Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Patronkast Fan Art Theater, where me, Smoke Man, and the guy who does all the actual drawing, Merc1, discuss our redesigns of a 3D era character. This time, our character of choice will be the infamous Hsu Hao.
This episode is going to be us preaching the gospel of how everyone else is stupid but us.
Look, to start off, I want to say, I think that Hsu Hao has a reputation that is partially earned, but partially not. Like, he is thought of as the worst Mortal Kombat character. I defy you that Darius, Dairu, and Mavado are all worse concepts. What failed Hsu Hao is not his look or his story, but simply his moves. And the Deadly Alliance engine failed everybody's moves, so that's not really fair.
I think some of his looks are to blame.
Well, he does look kind of goofy, but so do Darius and Dairu. You see where I'm going with this? He's not the silliest looking guy. He's in the running. But
all the village people jokes were not unearned.
He does.
Yeah, that was kind of a thing that kind of ran rampant for a while.
He does bear a surface level resemblance to a gay leather fetish policeman image. It's true. He's a shirtless guy, and he's wearing that hat, and he's got that mustache. It's somewhat there, yes. But what I want to get across in this episode, as we discuss what we did to fix him, is how easy it is to fix. That a lot of the reason he looks silly isn't even the idea of the costume design, it's just how it looked in that engine, the 3D modeling of it. The cartoony proportions, the almost greenish skin tone, his bulbous egghead and tiny mustache.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like they made him look like a caricature on purpose. So if you just make him look like a human being, you're fixing most of the problem. I mean, the first thing we did is, as always, you want the design to come from their story, to tell you, when you're looking at him, who is this guy, where is he from, what's he about. Hsu Hao is Mongolian Chinese. His ethnicity is a big part of his costume design. And it was a big part of the caricature mistake, where they made him so yellow he's almost green. That's a bit racist. We're gonna not do that.
Yeah, that's kind of a big yikes.
Yeah. But it's interesting. In his original concept art, he was so patriotic, nationalistic. That was a part of his character, in that he has the Chinese flag tattooed on his face.
And there's actually quite a few different iterations of Hsu Hao in his concept art. Many different other, like, tattoo designs.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the crypt, most of them are labeled Kublai Khan, because that was, at one point... I hope it was never more than a placeholder, because you can't call a guy Khan and not have him at all related to the Throne of Outworld. But for, I mean, it was spelled Khan, actual, like, Kublai Khan, the son of Genghis Khan from Chinese history. That's the name they were going with for a while, before they finally came up with Hsu Hao. But yeah, that name is on all the concept art in the Deadly Alliance crypt, and you can see the not just the face tattoo, but also how his shoulder pad and his mechanical heart were sort of, the harness on his chest was a different, and I would argue much better design than what they went with in the final product.
I hate the harness in the final product. It seems superfluous.
It's so weird how his shoulder pad isn't on his shoulder. It's like all the way down on his bicep.
Yeah, I hated that shit. It seemed pointless. Like, why is that there just to make him punch better?
Yeah, it's so almost like Rob Liefeldian in its unnecessariness.
Yeah.
So we definitely did away with that. We just have the heart embedded in his chest. And
Yeah.
I like the look of a shoulder pad. We kept the one shoulder pad, but it's attached to his clothes. It's over top. It's not bolted to the heart.
And we kept the same logo on it too. And...
Yeah. But the face tattoo, it's interesting because they ended up not using it in his in-game model, but you can still see it in Jax's ending. And in the joke picture in the crypt, where it's like an advertisement for Valentine's Day chocolates. See, the joke is that he doesn't have a heart, so you get him the heart full of candy. But yeah, in those pictures, he still has the face tattoo, which is weird. And I think the most public awareness of the face tattoo comes from the fact that in the MKX comic book, the Sean Kittleson Dexter Soy comic, Hsu Hao was depicted with the face tattoo because he was based off the concept art instead of the in-game model. Like, he had the concept art's version of the shoulder pad attached to the heart instead of the big strappy harness, and then he has like a giant microchip sticking out of the other shoulder for some reason. So I think a lot of people saw Hsu Hao that way. So in the comic, like, the comic version of Hsu Hao is probably more popular than the Deadly Alliance character.
It's certainly...
I mean, even though he only appears in the first issue, and then Scorpion kills him.
he kind of fucks up Kenshi's sword, doesn't he?
Well, that's the weird thing. Like, in the art, he shoots his heart laser, and it looks like Kenshi's sword is shattering. Like,
and that might have... I think that was inspired by the what's it called? The possessed variation. Yeah. And they never did anything with that.
It feels like Kittleson was about to set up possessed variation, and then someone told him, no, wait, we're not actually doing it in the game, don't do that. So Kenshi's sword is just not broken in the future issues. So it's like, it clearly looks like it's breaking on panel, but no, it isn't. You didn't see that didn't happen.
Souls of my ancestor reformed the sword, don't worry about it.
We're just gonna memory hole that panel from issue 1. Retcon that out. Didn't happen.
Seems like there's a lot of memory holing with the comic these days anyway.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah.
But I just remember being very confused when issue 1 came out. I was like, did they just break Kenshi's sword? Because it's not broken anywhere else.
I want to go back to the whole image about the village people and shit with just the hat.
Yeah.
Because the reason why people think the hat is silly is because it's just the hat. He's not wearing anything else.
Well, it's the whole image. He's a shirtless guy in that hat, and
with like some straps on him.
Yeah, and the little tiny mustache. It all does kind of look like the caricature of like a BDSM guy.
Yeah. If you just put something on him that matches the hat's not silly anymore.
Well, one of the things we did, because I'm looking at, like, the comic book version went with black leather pants, and I've seen some other fan designs that went with black leather pants and a black hat, and that is not the way you want to take it. That's not going to get you away from the caricature of a leather daddy. That's not what you want. We're not trying to go Rob Halford here. We're trying to make him look like a military guy. Because his story, like I was getting into, this nationalistic, patriotic Chinese guy, his story is that the Red Dragons had him join the Chinese military, and he's a military policeman. That's his rank in the Chinese army, and it's from that position that he is able to work as an informant with the American Special Forces and infiltrate them, because the Red Dragons sent him to take down the Black Dragons without giving away that the Red Dragons exist to anybody. So he's helping the Special Forces destroy the Black Dragons because the Red Dragons hate him. And then once the Black Dragons are out of the way, he's going to destroy the Special Forces too, so that all of the Red Dragons' enemies are gone. But, so all that infiltration starts from the point of him joining the Chinese army. So his costume is a Chinese military uniform. And you can see elements of that in his primary costume in the game. It's like the olive green pants, the hat is olive green with like a badge or a logo on it. So when we were doing the redesign, I was looking at actual Chinese MP uniforms and taking more details. We want, these kind of stripes and this like leaf design on the brim of the hat, and we want like these gold stripes down the legs and this and that. And
the gold stripes is weird because in the game he has red stripes in the same spot.
Yeah, he has stripes, but they're the wrong color for like what the real world Chinese MPs wear. Because it's main olive green, and there are gold details and there are red details, and they just put the red in the wrong spot. But one of the main things that I wanted on the design was to give him a belt buckle of like the Chinese star, but there's also like a Chinese character inside the star. I'm not sure what that character is, but I took it from their actual like uniforms. Like I wanted more of those details in the design, make him look more authentic.
Mm-hmm. That was in your original like drawing of Hsu Hao.
Yeah, well. Yeah. I did a sketch of Hsu Hao, like a real loose doodle, like 5-10 years ago, and I was sort of tracing from a concept art of Hulk Hogan for a wrestling game, so he's way out of proportion. Like his upper body is way too big because it was one of those wrestling games that has the cartoony graphics like All Stars or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I had some other details in that sketch that we didn't go with in the final. Like he had suspenders, but he wasn't wearing them. They were just hanging loose off the pants.
In hindsight, I kind of wish we took the knee pads.
The knee pads were all right, but I don't think we need them. I think knee pads can be one of those details where sometimes there's a little too much stuff on a character, like the MK11 aesthetic, where there's just way too many bits and pieces and little bits of jewelry that are visual noise. Mm-hmm. That they just threw on because, hey, we have access to HD, let's make everything look really detailed. And I prefer designs, as a rule, I prefer all designs to be something that a child could redraw from memory when they're just, chilling and they're thinking about their favorite characters from a video game. I think if you can't redraw it from memory, it's got too much shit on it. And that's across the board how I feel about art in general. And that's one of the reasons I complain so much about how busy the designs in not just the MK games, but even more so in Justice. Like, superheroes especially should be something a kid can draw from memory. Like, all that armor is just so not superhero. But yeah, the main thing that we wanted to do to fix Hsu Hao, because just making him look more like a real person alone, like fixing the proportions and making the uniform more authentic, that alone isn't going to do it. He's still going to be that weird Chinese guy with no shirt on. The thing that I felt he really needed to fix the design was to have some kind of top, something that could still show his heart, his mechanical heart. So it would have to be like open on the chest.
Mm-hmm.
But he can't just be naked from the waist up and still have that kind of fetishy look about him. So we went with like an army olive green trench coat with the sleeves ripped off.
Mm-hmm.
And we gave him a fur collar because I was thinking about Bane from The Dark Knight Rises, because the other major influence that I wanted to draw from to fix Hsu Hao was I kept thinking about Bane, and how Bane has the venom tubes that sort of start on his chest and go into his wrists, and then when he gets strong, his veins glow. That's how I wanted to imagine what Hsu Hao's heart does. Once it starts spinning up, it juices him and his veins glow and he gets stronger. Because when I think of like Hsu Hao's moves and playstyle and how to fix that, I'm thinking about Bane's wrestling moves in the Injustice games. I'm thinking, this guy... When Deadly Alliance first came out and I was playing it for the first time, before I actually tried Hsu Hao, like the first match I'm playing with Hsu Hao, I see down at the bottom of the screen that his moveset is called wrestling. And I get excited. Because I'm thinking, this is going to be the suplexes and power bombs guy. This is going to be really fucking cool. And he does have a vertical suplex, but that's the only fucking wrestling move in his entire moveset. Everything else is punching. How is that wrestling? And that's why I hated Hsu Hao as a kid. Well, I say as a kid, but I was 18 when Deadly Alliance came out.
Yeah. Obviously, like, you just look at Hsu Hao. Just fucking look at him. Obviously, he should be some kind of grappling character.
Yes, and the other thing is, like, thematically, Hsu Hao is the anti-Jax. He's the Venom to Jax's Spider-Man, the Sinestro to his Green Lantern. He is the evil opposite version of the character who is his rival. Jax is a wrestler. Hsu Hao needs to be a wrestler. You would think it's kind of obvious.
I think this would be a good point to bring up now, but there's actually a variant to this art where he's actually firing his laser.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. We'll show that on screen.
Yeah, I especially love all the lighting you did. I didn't expect you to like actually like light up his body and use the laser as a light source. Like, I didn't expect that at all.
Yeah, the lighting effects you did.
Yeah, it was pretty easy to do. It's just unfortunate that the pose that we did, I don't know. I think there was something that you wanted to do in addition to that, but
he had one costume detail that he wanted to get in but couldn't, because he wanted Hsu Hao to be wearing a wristwatch that sort of controlled
that's right.
the heart device.
But like the Iron Man Unibeam pose wouldn't really show.
Yeah, because you're seeing the insides of his wrists. You wouldn't see the watch.
Because his item in MK Armageddon is like a wristwatch.
Yeah, there's like wristwatches have become like a sort of theme for like whenever they do like the goofy little item that represents Hsu Hao in the game. Like there's a billboard advertising Hsu Hao watches in, I think 9. I think it's 11. In 9.
Is it in 11?
No, it's in 11.
Yeah, it's in 11. It's in 11. It might be both actually. I can't remember.
I don't think it's in 9.
There's also like
they might have taken the fucking assets from 9 and just slap the characters in that.
It's possible.
Maybe.
But yeah, so there's the collector's item in Armageddon Conquest is a watch. I think he has a watch item you can collect in the crypt in 11. He does wear a wristwatch in Deadly Alliance. You can see it best again in the picture from Jax's ending where he's getting his heart ripped out, and you can see like he's got the tattoo on his face. He's clearly wearing like a very fancy wristwatch that doesn't just tell time, but like tells it in different time zones. One of those really like detailed ones.
Yeah.
So I imagine that it'd be like something he would control the heart with and like pump it up and give him more juice and shit. But like I said, the posing wouldn't really show that off well, so we had to get rid of it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
How I'd imagine his moves, I don't really imagine like the laser beam being his main thing.
No,
Like,
I think the laser
I would not imagine
beam
it as a projectile. I'd want it to incorporate it into his moves. Like he could have like an anti-air grab that where he like fires the laser once he has them like in his grasp and it launches them in the air, and then from there he can do whatever pop-up shit that he can and
well, I mean, it's like Kano's eye. Kano's eye laser has always been either just relegated to finishing moves, or it's just like a rare special move that he doesn't have every game, because he has more priority shit. You know, the cannonball and the knives come first.
Mm-hmm.
Hsu Hao isn't all about the laser. He's all about wrestling.
And people will sometimes say that it's the same thing as Kano's. Kano's laser is like this tiny thing that like you can like precision and shit.
Yeah, Kano's laser is like a cutting tool. Hsu Hao's laser is
some shit you can punch through a
meant to
fucking
disintegrate
like
shit.
steel wall.
Yeah, it's the fucking proton cannon. It's the Fulgor hyper beam.
Yeah, Fulgor is the one that I was mainly thinking of. Just that high pitched noise that it's got there, and just it should feel impactful.
Well, yeah, because it's interesting. One of the things when we were describing how we wanted the heart to be drawn, I was like, make sure it still has that like Y design inside, because I like the idea that there's like a spinning turbine in there, that there's a whole bunch of like mechanical shit going on. Because I feel like that adds to like the weight and the heaviness, and it makes the giant beam more believable, as opposed to just, oh, he's just got a glowing disc glued to him. Like with Kano. Like those off-brand arc reactors that they use in X and 11. No, there is a particle accelerator spinning up in there. His beams are like probably nuclear.
And I love the detail in the veins and shit, how they glow like Bane often does when he gets all venomed up and the veins look all green. I like how we incorporated that with the heart and how it's all red and shit. But one,
oh yeah,
we didn't take the idea from someone, but we arrived at the same conclusion as another piece of fan art by a guy named Will Nunez.
It's probably Nunez.
That's what I'm thinking. Because honestly, I don't think that there's any other like Hsu Hao redesign.
Yeah, there's very few Hsu Hao designs or fan art out there. His is interesting because he's got like the whole hands are glowing like red hot, like Jackson 11 with his heat up arms.
Mm-hmm. And
it kind of reminds me of the Russian fan art that wound up becoming a skin for Scorpion in X. The fan art version of that actually had his arms like made of lava, and they were like glowing really, really brightly.
With this fan art, I think is kind of interesting because it still does like the harness deal, like it is in Deadly Alliance, but it's like a lot bigger. And
this harness looks more real world, more military. This looks like a Hsu Hao who was designed by someone who's used to working on Metal Gear Solid games.
I definitely don't hate it. I like it.
Yeah, it's actually kind of cool. Although, like, again, I wouldn't choose to go with black pants and hat. I think the his heart looks too much like a disc and not enough like there's a mechanism all the way deep in his chest. Because if you look in Deadly Alliance, his heart piece goes all the way through him to his back. Like, Hsu Hao's chest is literally hollowed out. It's a big cylinder. And I like that depth and the idea that there's this giant cyclotron running all the way from his front to his back. Because I think that makes it more gruesome when Jax rips the thing out.
Yeah.
Because you remember the scene in Iron Man 1 where he's got, like, he needs help connecting a wire, so Pepper has to shove her whole hand in Tony's chest? Like, the arc reactor hole is as deep as a soup can? That's pretty gross, and I love it.
I think another detail is his fingerless gloves. I think we just stole from his alternate costume in Deadly Alliance.
I think he has fingerless gloves in the primary, too.
He
does in the Jax ending. That might be another
shit.
detail that got changed from concept to final and doesn't show up right in the ending.
Actually, wait, no, he doesn't. He does not have fingerless gloves in the primary.
Okay.
Oh,
Actually,
shit.
you know what?
Jax ending exclusive.
He might be wearing his alternate in the Jax ending. It's hard to tell because you can only see his upper body.
Well, the problem is, isn't there like isn't there an image of him like running somewhere?
Yeah, it is a 2-picture ending. Let me see what the first picture looks like. Okay, yeah, in the first picture,
he doesn't have the hat.
In the first picture, he's wearing the primary. Is just his hat is missing.
Yeah, that's so weird.
Because his alternate costume had, like, white pants with a weird, like, tribal tattoo pattern on them. Just meaningless, zigzaggy thing.
Mm-hmm. But, I think for years and years, you hear that Hsu Hao's the worst Mortal Kombat character, and how there's no way he can be fixed.
Yeah, he's really not that bad. It's just it's more
if
like Deadly Alliance is the worst graphics and moves engine, and he was the biggest victim of it.
Yeah, like all we pretty much did was just add one little piece of clothing to it.
Yeah, we just put a jacket on him. We literally just put a jacket on him. That's the whole design, and it completely changes how he looks. Because we didn't even like I said, part of why he looks so stupid is his tiny little mustache and goatee. We didn't change the design of his goatee, we just made it bigger.
Like, in terms of my favorite Deadly Alliance newcomers, because of how easy it is to fix Hsu Hao, he is top 5 for me. Like, I think he's the best Red Dragon character. His story is already good. You don't need to fuck with it.
Well, what I always liked about Hsu Hao, even when I was 18 and oh god, his moves are awful and he looks so goofy, I still loved the idea of this guy who has been working with Sonya and Jax since before MK1. Like, the coolest thing about Bo Raicho is that he's retroactively inserted into Liu Kang's backstory as his mentor. The coolest thing about Hsu Hao...
that's a thing that people actually don't know, is surprisingly.
Yeah.
Well, it's probably because they kind of push Hsu Hao off to the wayside, so they don't really look into his backstory. But yeah.
But yeah, like, as far as story, what I love about Hsu Hao is that he fleshes out the special forces more. Like, we don't really know anything about them from the early period except Sonya, Jax, and maybe Gemini? We never see her, we just know her voice, and her game isn't even canon. You know, there's some NPCs, like Lieutenant Baron, who show up in the comics for, like, 1 or 2 panels. And Melina eats him, so... But yeah, like, Hsu Hao gives another member of the team. He fleshes out that whole, like, agency, and he explains more about, like, how the Special Forces are fighting the Black Dragons, how they're finding them and rooting them out and stuff. And it really bothered me in MK9 where they literally removed Hsu Hao from the backstory and said Kano was a mole and he was doing the opposite, leading them away from the Black Dragons.
Oh, there's something to talk about. In Kano, in like almost every new NRS game, they keep taking Hsu Hao shit and giving it to him.
Yeah, and it's like, well, if Hsu Hao is so bad, then why is his shit worth stealing, right?
It doesn't make any fucking sense.
It's contradictory. It's like, well, if he was really a bad character, he wouldn't have anything worth taking, but Kano's taking all of his shit, so it must have been good shit.
his fucking like red like box thing is now like an Iron Man heart reactor like Hsu Hao's. He's now a grappler like Hsu Hao, or at least how Hsu Hao should be. And he just straight up took his fucking story. Now Kano is the one who infiltrated the special forces and fucked them over.
And that doesn't even, like, make sense, because Kano... Can you really imagine Kano being a good actor, like, pretending to be a good person and help the authorities? That they'd buy that? I can't.
Doesn't make any fucking sense.
He's way too much of an asshole to be any good at pretending to be a good guy. But Hsu Hao's whole thing is that, like, he's like an emotionless meat robot. Like, his bionics turned off his emotions because the Red Dragons didn't want him to experience feelings like ambition so that he'd be more loyal. So he's like this Chinese Mr. Spock who just tells it like it is. Of course you're going to trust that guy's intel because it's good intel. Because there's no bias from a guy who doesn't feel emotion. He's believable as a mole. But yeah, like that, I just feel like
it'd be especially hard for Kano to cover up all of his fucking clan tats and shit.
Yeah, that's true. He has these big fucking black dragons tattooed on his arm. I like how the tattoo changes every game, too. I don't think NRS knows how tattoos work. I mean,
Kano's just that rich where he gets laser surgery to get them off and then get new ones.
Yeah. No. You see, what it is a skin condition.
Well, no.
It kind of morphs like every fucking year.
It's a continuity condition. Because for a tattoo to be the same from one game to the next, you'd have to acknowledge that there's a continuous history, that these games take place in the same universe. And they don't. Yeah, they take place in Schrodinger's universe.
I think a lot of that has to do with their fucking outsourcing problem. I don't know if it's a problem. Maybe it is, but...
Well, surely they can have some fucking reference photo to give the artist to, like, do this tattoo.
You would think.
But I you know what? I remember what the art looked like in the first half of the MKX comic. Giving reference photo is clearly not how they roll. Remember the Jinsei Chamber starting out as Zordon's command center?
I don't.
Oh, yeah.
I legit don't.
Oh, yeah. For most of the comic, it was this weird mechanical sci-fi room. And then towards the end of the comic, when MKX actually came out, it changed to look like it does in the game. Which shows that the artist was not given pictures of the stage before he started drawing the comic.
Jesus Christ.
Had to wait for the game to come out to know what the things in the game look like, so you can draw the locations from the game. Same thing with Fujin's costume. They used the Armageddon one. The Sky Temple was the Deception version for a while.
Oh, God. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I just posted the image in Discord for you listeners.
Yep. That's Zordon's command center.
That is garbage. Let's talk about something that's not garbage, like Hsu Hao. One thing I think... We talked a little bit about his moves, but I think it's worth delving more into.
Yeah, because, I mean, just wrestler. I mean, that should be his normals. You want the power bomb and the vertical suplex and all that stuff to be just, like, in his strings. For his specials, one thing is, I would definitely retain the Hulk clap. I think that's...
The Hulk clap, you could do something cool where, like, when it, like, the hands come together, it, like, emits, like, a red energy and shit.
Well...
You could...
The one thing about the Hulk clap is that nobody else uses it. Like, Shiva's fireball is almost a Hulk clap, but it's such, like, an iconic superhero attack, and it's almost weird that they made it to MK5 before they ever gave it to someone.
Mm-hmm. But, function-wise, you could have that, like, negate projectiles and shit.
Yeah, there's some
Like a
shit you could do
grappler.
with it.
Yeah, and so I have this big fucking document on how I'd fix all the moves of all the 3D era characters. For Hsu Hao, I gave him 4 different fucking command grabs. Like, I gave him like a chain grab, like Solomon Grundy in Injustice.
That was the best thing about Grundy.
Yeah, I gave him low grabs that catch people like when they're crouching, ones that actually connect low, an anti-air grab, a throw when they meet in the air together, like an air grab. He should just be grapples the person. Obviously have like a move where he does some things on his like watch control thing and like buff up his fucking moves with the heart. And like overload its reactor or whatever the hell, and then like you could give all those grabs like armor and shit and give him like a slight damage increase. I gave him like a roll move where like lets him go under projectiles, and I gave him another throw after that to connect at the end of it, where he like tackles them and like fires his laser into the ground and like punches through them in the ground. You could give him like a throw where like he holds them up by the hands and then like just fire the laser and like punches through them. You could do like as like a fatality or whatever. Like you could do a bunch of shit with this fucking dude.
Yeah, I feel like there is no greater example of the like failing of creativity to look at Hsu Hao and say, no, this is all trash, it all has to go. That's ridiculous. Look at all the good shit going on with this design. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy because it feels obvious to me. It feels obvious. Like, I've never really gotten the Hsu Hao is the worst thing. To me, Hsu Hao looked like somebody took a good idea and drew a goofy cartoon of it. But that doesn't mean the good idea wasn't there underneath. You just have to do it right. Not like a goofy cartoon like Deadly Alliance did.
It's really not that hard. It's so simple.
Yeah, it's really a shame how they just kind of deemed it not worth the effort. You know?
Like, if I'm being honest, I think more work has to go into make Ferritor more interesting than Hsu Hao.
Yeah.
I could agree to that. I mean, Ferritor doesn't have... Either Pharaoh or Tor doesn't really have the intelligence to come up with, like, a creative combination of chain attacks. Like, this is a character who should just, like, grab you by the ankle and slam you around. They're not gonna do, like, the cool wrestling stuff. Like, a power bomb isn't just you toss a guy. It's like you have to, you know, bend them over and then make them do a flip. There's a little bit of a point A to point B to point C to come up with a move like that a big dumb brute isn't going to bother with. They're just gonna, you know, swing their arms around and be, you know, just clumsy. Ferritor is a character whose moves are all meant to look clumsy. And that's not really that fun. Like, that's what Moloch was. And people don't look at Moloch and go, bring him back. I mean, we would, because we want to fix every 3D Air character, but like...
I mean, move-wise, Moloch is also easy to fix, but...
Moloch has more going on than Farah and Tor do, because Moloch has supernatural elements in his story that were not realized in his moves. Like, that ball is covered with all kinds of runes carved into it. That could be some magic shit. He had that whole backstory with the owl that they never used in-game. That could be something. Ferritor is literally just a big guy who throws a child at you. That's it. That's all there is to it. There's no glowing runes. There's no fireballs. There's no sorcery. There's no grand lore. It's just a big guy who throws a child.
But as far as Hsu Hao goes, I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Yeah, this is another one that was fairly simple. I
Again,
feel
like Razor said, the only major change we really added was the coat.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just draw him in regular human proportions with the bigger goatee, take all the goofy straps off his heart, and put him in a coat. That's the whole design. Because we didn't even come up with the idea that his heart should make him stronger. He had buff moves in Armageddon. I just said, why don't you draw the glowing veins? Why don't you just do it on the picture?
The man is basically just Chinese cybernetic Bane.
Yeah.
Like, you say that out loud, and that sounds cool. That is what
like,
Hsu Hao is.
And it's like comic book Bane or Dark Knight Rises Bane, where he's an intelligent character, you know? You think about the Bane that we rarely get in media, but comic readers know how cool Bane can be. Hsu Hao is also that intelligent. He's also that, like, devious. He's a spy in a military organization. He's not just strong, dumb guy.
And in terms of, like, what he does in the story, he fucking demolishes the OIA base.
Yeah, like, he blows up their headquarters with a nuke.
That alone is more than, like, a lot of characters in Jedi Alliance.
Kano specifically has ever done.
More than Movado? Like, Hsu Hao's the fucking man, dude.
Well, Hsu Hao he's kind of like Oddjob, or like he's the heavy in a James Bond story. Mortal Kombat doesn't have any other James Bond style characters, I would say, other than really Hsu Hao. Like, not even, like, Movado's his boss, but Movado doesn't feel like a real spy villain. He feels like a goofy martial arts villain that's undercooked.
It's him.
So, like, Hsu Hao has all this unique shit, and they're just... Nah, he looks stupid, and he looks like a gay guy, and whatever, man. It's just so...
wasteful.
I mean, first of all, that's homophobic, right? That's a bad stereotype. Can we not?
I'm pretty sure, yes.
So, yeah, I feel like it's an indictment of the people who write these characters off, that they're so easy to fix, that it doesn't take much work at all. So to not go that far, like that tiny little step and just now throw him out, it really makes me think less of a person when they look at Hsu Hao and go, no, he's trash, fuck him. Because it's so easy, But yeah, that's my feelings on it. Like, I feel like with these episodes, we maybe too often go on and on about how easy they are to fix. I think we need to get to some characters like Dairu who need more work.
Mm-hmm.
I think the next one I don't feel was easy. I think it's not a complicated redesign, but it is a character who I felt needed something, a character who wasn't fine already. If you're following us and you know which art we have done and which art we do not have done, which we've talked about in the comment sections and on our Discord, you know the next character is Ashrae. Ashrae has plenty of fans, and I'm not saying they're wrong, but for me, Ashrae, other than the base story of the demon who finds the purifying sword, just from a costume and move standpoint, I think Ashrae is very bland and was not easy to reimagine. I think Ashrae was a character who needed a lot of work. So when we talk about her, it's not going to be a whole lot of, this was so easy, you're so stupid for not thinking of this before. It's going to be a different tone, more like the Dairu episode. So,
and when we say you, the listener, are stupid. It's more of a joke.
No, I mean NRS. NRS is not even trying, though. Like, I can't fault them for not doing something they don't want to do in the first place, really. Like, they have no interest in fixing Hsu Hao, which is part of the problem.
I mean, I've said, man, like, put Hsu Hao in the roster, and if it leaks, no one will believe it.
That's true. That is a leak-proof character drop.
And then fucking the trailer drops, and he plays, like, super fucking cool, and everyone's minds will fucking melt, man.
I think
It'd be
that
probably the most vindicating thing in the world.
But it's just there are some characters who I always go to the example of Stryker at MK9. Stryker was absolutely hated in the 90s. He was the Hsu Hao of his era. And all they had to do was make him not look fat. They didn't even change his moves. His moves were fine.
I remember thinking as a kid that Stryker in MK3 looked like a pizza boy. Like he was a delivery guy.
Yeah, I always joke that he looks like Chief O'Brien from Star Trek. Because he fucking does. Like, even that shirt looks like a Star Trek uniform. I don't know why they thought that looked like a cop shirt. But I guess, I don't know, Tobias's aesthetic in 95 was kind of futuristic.
Very superhero.
Yeah.
But as far as how it goes,
in terms of how easy it was for them to make Stryker someone you could take seriously, half the characters are just like that in the 3D era. Hsu Hao is a character who just needs very little work to take him seriously. His story is fine. His underlying concept is great. It was just failed by the graphics and the moves. But there are other characters like Darius and Dairu, and I believe Ashrae, who need a lot more searching to find what that core concept should be and bring it out and show why it could have been cool. And Hsu Hao is one of the first category, and the next episode will be more of the second category, so look forward to that. Any final thoughts, you guys?
Not that I can think of. I think we pretty much hit everything that we wanted to talk about.
All right.
Yeah, I think everything's pretty much been touched on. The like we've, as you mentioned, we've done the whole "this was easy" kind of thing to death. But yeah. Oh, actually, one. Sorry. One little thing that I just wanted to kind of say real quick. Well, two, actually. One, first of all, it was recently brought to my attention that I had apparently done the veins upside down. And to that I say, I'm sorry.
I don't think there's too many people out there who are scholars in the shape of veins.
Yeah,
it was brought to my attention.
I'm deeply sorry. I wasn't looking at an anatomy diagram, Mr. Tabmock 99. But thank you anyway. I really appreciate it. I'm glad that you looked at my art. And two, this I actually haven't really kind of told anybody about this outside of these three guys, but I am attending school right now, and the workload has been a bit much. So unfortunately, I haven't had a whole lot of time to do any more commissions, but within the coming weeks, that will change. So look forward to it. More content coming your way.
Yep.
Sick.
Hopefully you won't even really notice a break once we run out of the 4 characters we have art for, that we can get another one done in time.
Yeah, it should hopefully be a smooth transition.
So yeah, so we have Ashrae coming up. We have a 5th character in the works. once those commissions open back up soon. We also have, in terms of Patreon content, we have the Voter's Choice episode that was voted on last month will be out hopefully within the week. So, yeah, look forward to that. And, of course, when that goes up, there will be a poll for next month's Voter's Choice as well, which, whatever you want to see us do. You can vote for that by joining the Patreon. The minimum vote is $1 a month, and that will get you access to all of the content, and you can vote in the polls, pretty much everything. There are higher tiers. Those are mostly for if you're feeling generous. And that's pretty much it for this episode. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks, Merc, for being on the show.
Thank you for having me, as always.
So, see you later, nerds.
Bye-bye. Take care.
See ya.